Hello, trying something new, and I'm going to be doing a deck profile. Um, so Chicago has a badge league for GLC, and I won my psychic badge right before Dimension Valley is banned. So this will soon be a retro deck, kind of a time capsule of the very brief Perfect Origin format we'll have with this card legal. Um, so I kind of wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk about the deck, why I gravitated towards this specific build, um, and also where this deck stands in a post-Dimension Valley world. Um, Instead of going card by card, I'm instead going to maybe talk about some of the greatest hits, or cards that really are interesting to talk about, not necessarily some of the strongest. So in order, uh, Ralts, it's one of these basics that's like not super arbitrary, and there's also a lot of them that are kind of side grades. So I went with the collect one. I think that in most cases, if you're attacking with the Ralts, you're not in a great position. Um, and this one kind of just hits like a lot of the high point. That's 70 HP. Um, And I think like card draw, especially if you're in this point, just getting +1 cards is pretty good. So many of the psychic cards actually do draw, so the chances of that card actually being of value is pretty high, as opposed to um, some of the other ones. So I'll just pull up like the other routes that I think are worth talking about. This memory skipped one, I think has like a case. Um, there's some Pokemon that just have one attack that they just spam over and over again, and memory skipping that can actually be a way to progress your board by having your opponent have to give up resources to get out of this lock. Uh, but of course, in GLC, retreat is essentially free, so it doesn't really matter too much. This teleportation burst one, I think is like also kind of interesting. It's a free switch, same thing. Uh, Retreat, if you play your cards right, is like essentially free in the format, so it doesn't matter too much. And I think the +1 card draw is worth it. The memory skip one is 60 HP, which actually does kind of matter. Of course, like all the 70 HP ones are just bait for Soul Rock and Fan Rotom. Uh, but there's some attacks that do 60 on the dot. Um, that, of course, that math will matter. I'm drawing blank on them. The Corellia, there's no other Corellia you should be playing. It's just card draw. And it also lets you thin out some of the tech cards. It also has like really great synergy with this Giratina right here. Um, and no reason not to play it if you're playing the Gardevoir or Gallade line. So I feel like they're the community's split, but they're kind of going in this direction between Gardevoir, Shining Arcana, and Gallade. In theory, you can play both, but um, there is like kind of wasted deck space. So Gardevoir, I think, is like actually one of the strongest cards in the deck. And so much of it is because it's like loaded with good stuff. So Shining Arcana, just letting you draw 2 cards is really good in the late game. And like sometimes you just hit a basic energy and the value add is like actually insane. But the part that people really underestimate is that Brainwave is an insanely productive attack. Um, it's not difficult to hit like 150, and that's like the magic number to knock out a lot of stuff. Uh, and if you can get one more on, 180 like knocks out some of the tanks. Um, Attach a muscle band on it that puts you at like 200, and that like clears even more stuff. And it's a super efficient attacker, and it's like kind of bulky, like 140. That's like right above like where a lot of these like basic attackers are. So very productive, very good card. Not to, I think like the blindside play. is kind of overdone. I guess for people who don't know, you play this card in conjunction with TM Blindside, 3 energy, and you can take 2 prizes if it has a damage counter on it. You can use Giratina, or some decks just naturally have damage counters on. If somebody retreats, it's a lot of good ways to get that combo ready. And it's a very easy combo to get started once you identify it. Um, the problem, or I guess maybe an issue moving forward, is Dimension Valley made the combo kind of trivial if you had the combo pieces. Um, and I think without it, you still can't because you have like Zatsu, and then you use the what is it called? Strange Timepiece to devolve. You have Malamar, and then you have like Raw Attach from hand, or you have like Raihan, something like that. There's a lot of ways to like, get it even without Dimension Valley, but it is a little weaker without it. Zatu, energy acceleration from hand, really strong. Inkay, I think there's like it really is arbitrary between the two. Um, I don't think it matters too much. I think there's like one that has like maybe an interesting attack, but yeah, look, it's all pretty like not that great. As long as you're playing one of the 60 HP ones, you're fine. I guess the other one has a gold, so if you're like a max rarity head, like that might be optimal. Malamar, comes from the discard energy acceleration. One of the strong parts about Psychic is that energy acceleration goes both ways. You can get something from discard, you can get something from your hand, and if you have both, uh, you can power up something really quickly without any using energy attachment from hand. Uh, Very good. This is the core of the deck, and I think this is what actually makes Psychic the strongest type. And it's not affected by Dimension Valley, um, which is maybe a problem. Mew, Mysterious Tail. This is another reason why Psychic is so strong. Being able to like grab items from your deck like adds so much consistency, and most of your deck is items. So the chances of you hitting something is like worth it. And even if you don't grab like an item that progresses your board, you're still thinning out like a little bit. So it's good. One retreat, so you can put a U-turn board on it. Um, it has to be in the active, but that doesn't necessarily matter. Uh, just like really great versatile pivot. Iron Boulder. I think this is the strongest attacker in the format. Um, Getting the same hand size as your opponent is trivial in the beginning of the game, as both players like start with 7. You really don't have to do that much. There's cards like Iono that get you close enough. Marnie's gets you close enough. Marnie's is actually a really good card in this because you can just use one of those cards and you're right at it. Also, the problem is that you can get this off with Dimension Valley turn 1, um, if you like play your hand right. And I don't think you should be able to do 170 turn 1 on principle. Of course, there's still ways to do this with like Wondrous Patch, but you need like a pivot, and it's kind of like the amount of cards you would need make hitting that like same number difficult. So, really strong. And this also works in conjunction with this because Shining Arcana, Refinement, and Clairvoyant Sense all like kind of fix your hand sizes. Mysterious Tail can use you to get like you can use it to just grab one more. Very, very, very strong. Dimension Door Giratina is interesting. Um, so I don't have a way to take damage counters off. I don't play Monkey Dory because I didn't really want to manage any of the dark energy like rainbows. I just wanted like only the I wanted a more streamlined deck essentially. And one thing this does is that this is an attacker you can always get on the board. And with Dimension Valley, this card is really good because you can power this up one turn, Malamar. plus energy in hand. If you have clairvoyant sense, you can hit all three super quickly. And 130 clears like a lot of stuff. The four damage counters is like kind of difficult to manage. Generally, you can put it on like a bowler or a Zacian, uh, but that kind of sucks. Or in some cases, like I've put it on like Mew, I put it on like the Zatu because uh, it kind of does like deteriorate in value as the game goes on. So it's one thing. And of course, like it's all um, port state based on where you're gonna put it. So, but I think the real strong thing about it is that it does have this strong synergy with the not to blindside plays. Um, and I think like if you I think there is a future where you say, you know what, the not to blindside play is like not beneficial enough, and I want to have like a better attacker. Uh, I think Giratina could be something worth dropping. But the problem, or maybe like the interesting part, is because Yatu is so good, there's no reason not to include the not to plus blindside. It's only like one extra card, and you have to play not to. I think Giratina is going to stick around. Also, 130 like clears so much. And you can put like a muscle band on it, and that does 150, which essentially clears like even a lot of the stage twos. So, very strong card. This is a card that a lot of people have been telling me to cut, and I don't get it. So I think Zacian, people often say that like because it triggers in the late game, there's not much utility to it. However, I think one thing, because of how the meta has evolved, uh, these little basics all have to be under 70 HP for the most part. And it just so happens that Zacian with a muscle band clears 70 HP exactly. So something I've been doing is because the energy requirement is only two, or one with Dimension Valley, you can do attach muscle band donk, or you can do uh, just muscle band and just bully out the little basics. And that pressure can be like really difficult to deal with. Uh, and normally, like they'll try and play their hand down if they're in a really rough spot where they're pushing these basics down, so you can't boulder them for free, essentially. And in those places, you're willing to like ditch the muscle band. And I'm playing like Lana's Rod, so if I need to fetch that muscle band back for later, I can. So interesting use case. I don't know if a lot of people are talking about. Mr. Mime, you kind of just have to play it if you respect spread or bench damage, which I don't necessarily want to lose to Raging Bolt, so I have to play Mr. Mime. If not, you can always pitch it for like Ultra Ball or something else. Tulip, just generically good recovery. Hex Maniac is like one of the most broken cards in format, and I think I play Reset Stamp just for that. Uh, I think like one problem with GLC as a format is that coming back from losing positions is really difficult. But Hex plus Reset Stamp, whenever they're at like three prizes and you're at four, actually puts them in like a really rough position because a lot of the best decks have like these onboard draw engines and they play like pretty lean um draw in some cases. Like of course every deck's playing like this draw core, but some of them just don't really have that. Or they're using abilities for to progress their board. So broken card. Guzma, you have to play it. Teammates, I think like this is another card a lot of people want me to cut. I think because this deck, um, one of the reasons why I do keep it is that you can pretty much guarantee like these blindside plays off of teammates. Either you need energy, you need something else, and so on and so forth. And it's also just good to be like, oh, I need like one card plus like whatever. So that could be like, oh, I need like Night Stretcher and then okay, I'll just get like a reset stamp, and that like progresses your board a lot. You might need like field blower, and then like it might be nice to like progress my board through this, or you need to like get a combo off. You could do like an example is you might say, "Oh, I need Nest Ball plus like Professor's Letter," and it just comes up. It's a very good card to get off of Poke Gear whenever you're not in a great position. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it. Ion, you have to play. Raihan, also you have to play. Broken card. Lilies, Arvin. Really, the rest of these are like all really like default cards. I think Marnie is like kind of suspect. Like it feels so bad to like do anything except for like get the first turn of the game. It is good for like hand fixing for Iron Boulder, and that's why I kind of keep it in. But I think it's like not that great. Also, late game Marnies is like kind of fraudulent because you're probably putting your opponent into a really like decent hand. Wondrous Patch. I don't know why they gave Psychic this. This is actually like an insane card choice. Of course, they don't care about GLC, but uh, Psychic really gets everything. All the Ultra Balls or all the ball cards. You kind of just need them all. Um, Pokepad, same thing. Just no reason not to play it. Palbad, I think, is a card I'm not really getting the value. It's a card I always forget I play. Sometimes it's discard fodder. But I can imagine a lot of cases where it's like, I kind of need to like shuffle back in a Guzma or a Raihan, or a Hex, just to, like win the game a little, or close it out. Professor's Letter, you need energy like in place early, and this is kind of just like I can attack this turn as a card because if you have not to, because like normally like your ideal plan is like attacker one of these three and then grab like Ralts not to, and then if you're able to grab Mew, or if you're in like a really rough position, do like not to Mew, uh, hoping that you can kind of like if you have a way to get like an out to not to, and then generally you're like pretty good because of the card value you're getting. Versus Seeker, you have to play the card. Field Blower, same. I'm also only running one stadium, which I'll talk about later. So this is like my other stadium out. Gets out float stones, gets out like a lot of really annoying kind of like tools people play. Trainer's Wheel. Generally you're hitting something good in here. Like the deck is overwhelmingly trainers, so you could get it. Sometimes you can win the game off of Trainer's Mail because you gain so much value. Energy Retrieval synergizes really good with Zatu. And you just need to attach from hand sometimes. Scoop Up Net, this is really like if you get retreat locked or you have something in the bait in the active that you kind of just want to get rid of. Also, you can use this to set up not to. You can use this to refresh damage if you're playing a spread deck. Or if there's something you start that you really don't want to. Like these two have really hefty retreats. So not that great. And you kind of need to. Night Stretcher, Rescue Stretcher, both cards you kind of have to play. Even Sense, I think like some people were saying that you would drop this for Pokepad. I was playing Battle VIP Pass before, so easy cut for me. I think Evo Incense is really good, especially in conjunction with Arvin. Um, like Arvin for essentially whichever one of these you don't have, plus like U-turn board or floatstone is pretty good. Um, Pokegear, like I'm not running a lot of supporters in the grand scheme. I guess this is actually a good amount of supporters, like a pretty normal amount. And sometimes you just need to hit one of those. With Palpad, you can kind of like fix your deck, so you essentially will always draw into one. Um, so good card. I think like one of those kind of auto includes I would put in a deck. It's just a generically like really good card. Reset stamp. Um, some decks have like are really prone to disruption if they have a bad start. Like Drago Box, like sometimes if you can just like run their energy off the board, and then you hit them with reset stamp and they don't have a way to draw out of it, like they're in a really rough position. So this in conjunction with Hex, really good card. Uh, I think like this is something that I could consider cutting. Um, you could say it's almost like a win more card in some ways. Like, is this progressing your board? Maybe by regressing your opponents, but generally, like this hits the most whenever your opponent is in a bad state. So it's like you're probably already winning that. And there's so many decks that have like insane hunt or draw that it's kind of sus to do this. Um, and sometimes you maybe hit them into a better hand, so it's like whatever. Mysterious treasure, like you kind of need this. It's like a really good search. It's a search for everything, and you need to like thin your deck sometimes. Also, you can use this with like psychic energies, or same with quick ball, same with like anything else. Discard a psychic, discard a Giratina, and then activate Malamar or Giratina's ability off of it. Really good. Strange Timepiece, you kind of have to run if you want to play Natu because the Zatu is like essential to this deck. So yeah, it kind of feels bad sometimes. I actually do end up discarding it a lot and then say like, oh, I'm just gonna sack my Zatu and like take the Natu off of like a stretcher or something. Fog Crystal, yeah, really good. You need energy search. This is another energy search. And if you're like in a really bad position, you can grab like your other basics. Yeah, you need to set up your little basics. So this is like a default you have to have. One is in theory, you can like get two blindsides off in a turn with this. I don't think this is right, or in a game more so. Um, it's kind of like a fanfic Disneyland play, but it also does let you discard like a muscle band or a floatstone or so on, and shuffle it back. You can reuse them. People are always field blowing your floatstones, but you can only field blower something once. So it is like kind of good. Maybe that is a cut, I think, because like realistically, you're probably not getting that blind side off twice. And if you get that blind side off twice, like it's a win more card. But shuffling back in like a muscle band or a float stone is like really good value. Yep. Muscle band, float stone, two of the best cards in the format. I think like every deck's playing these. Same with like U-turn board. Like these three are kind of just the default tools you play in everything. Unless your deck is like all gigantic guys, then maybe U-turn board isn't that good. I've talked a lot about Blindside. Dimension Valley is like the only stadium I play. So the theory behind that is that um, Psychic doesn't have a lot of really great stadiums. I was previously playing Mystery Garden, but I cut that for telepathic energy. And my theory behind it is that I had never used Mystery Garden's effect because you have so many cards that you're not really getting the draw up to. Um, And really what you're using it for is to just like bump Lost City if you run into it. So you just have to be more conservative about your stadiums, which is something you should probably do in general. Like don't just play a stadium down just to play it, unless like you need to thin your deck, of course. Um, and I have two outs, and there's not that many stadiums like I'm actually that mad about. Like you can play through a lot. Like I've played under Parallel City for a whole game, and it didn't really matter too much. Because you can keep a really lean board and still like outdraw, out tempo your opponent. That's just the power of Psychic. So Dimension Valley, broken card. I think like as like a balance band, it makes sense, and I think like thematically it kind of makes sense with like the double colorless bands, but whatever. Telepathic is the like another card that I am surprised that they printed. It's almost like this was their break psychic patch. Well, they've been doing it like slowly over time. Like Psychic has essentially everything that you would need, but being able to grab two basics is actually insane. And you can attach this on the bench. So, yeah, it's broken. And it just so happens that if you get like two of these little guys, you're in a way better position than like everybody else. So, that's crazy. Mystery Energy, free retreat, or -2 retreat, which is essentially free for most everything. And normally, if you're putting these two up in the active, you're just attacking with them until they die. So, It's good. Counter energy, I don't know. Maybe you can get like more value out of it than I am. Um, but the concept is like, oh, I can attach this onto like Station or Iron Bundle for free. I can attack with some of these guys if I really need to, and not really worry. So, or it's just like one attach on like a Giratina, and then Dimension Valley are there. Psychic Energy, you have to play them. Sixes feels like really good. So essentially, like where I'm at with this deck is, I think like with telepathic, it makes sense to maybe switch to like a Guz Mahala build. Because you really want to get this off turn one. So I kind of like created this list of like cards that I think I would consider playing because of it. So one of the problems with like Guz Mahala is you need to kind of like get that value from stadiums as well. So you need a stadium, you need a special energy, you need a tool. So the tool you're gonna want to be grabbing is this TM Evo, and the energy is gonna be telepathic. So you're gonna get some value off of that. And if you can get it going, you can cheat in like Natu, a Zatu, and like a Curlia, or depending on your hand, Zatu, Malamar, or any of this combination. And then you are probably in a position where you can maybe tempo out the game from there. The problem I think of is like, what stadium would you want to grab? I think maybe um, there's a couple different approaches I have. One is just Artisan. It's like the bread and butter of like Guz Mahala plays. Like you get it, um, you get like one of the TMs, you get like what your generic good one is, um, and then like Artisan, and then you're there. This could be good as like a fallback if you prize telepathic. Um, and then you can do this if you have like some other like basic, and then it's essentially the same thing. Another idea is to run like Chaotic Swell. Because like there's no real stadium that you kind of want to play, but other people have stadiums that they want to play, so you just go full like aggro in the stadium war and say like, if you want, like, I'm gonna knock out your stadium with Chaotic Swell, and then you have to bump one more stadium with this, or use your like field blower. Uh, I think it's like an interesting idea, and Uh, the problem is like with these hate cards that you play, like, is this progressing your game? Is a question you kind of have to ask. Besides just like tilting your opponent. Training Court is another one. So Zatu kind of inherently falls off at the end of the game. Um, and this gives you an option to take something from the discard, Zatu it, and draw two, which is insane value. Like essentially, if most people had a stadium that just said draw two and accelerate one energy, everybody would be like, oh yeah, I would play that in a heartbeat. If that was in standard, I think like people would maybe play four of those. Um, or if they couldn't benefit from it, they would be playing four like random stadiums to bump it. And Psychic can do this. So I think it's really strong as this core. And then I think like Wobbuffet has like an interesting position in this because um sometimes like you want to just push something into the active and like buy some turns where you're building up your board. And I think that this offers like a really interesting kind of like opportunities for that. Um so the deck is like really aggro, and this kind of like slows it down a little. Because like one of the powers of this new psychic deck is that it's so strong, so fast and so strong. And this kind of like inherently slows it down. So It is interesting. I think Wildfit is like an inherently really strong card. So, and this is the card that like I have been trying to fit for a long time. I think that this card is actually really, really, really good in the mirror. And there's always occasions where your opponent like plays a card or hits you with an attack, and you're like, oh man, I can't like knock this out, but its attack does like a lot of damage. So I think of it as like I'm trying to remember the attack name. This thumping snore, Snorlax, 150 is like really difficult to clear for this deck. Unless you hit like the Iron Boulder. But with Mimikyu, you can like revenge kill it off of like a counter energy or something like that. And I think it's really strong in that way. It also gets powered off of like a Zatu Malamar or Zatu like attached from hand. Super strong. It's really good in the mirror against Iron Boulder. Um, and I guess it clears like really everything now that I'm looking at it. Like all of these people like knock themselves out with their own attacks. Really interesting now I think about it. Um, and there's more plays that like I see randomly that I really want included on. So I think Psychic is still really strong, and there's not much you would really need to change in this deck to make this still viable. Um, I think it's like a really fun deck also. You get to draw cards. Um, I think like a really fun mini game for me is like this adjusted horns where my opponent has six cards in hand and I have like nine. And there's ways to like play it down to six. And like really that risk and reward of like I can take a knockout 'cause 170 essentially knocks out everything. Um, but I am gonna give up some resources or play resources preemptively. Or in the inverse, where my opponent has seven cards and I have three. Because there are ways to like play that up to it. So really fun, really good. It rewards like clean play. I think like there's so many options, and like if you really learn this deck, like you kind of have something for everything. And I, I I very much think that there's a lot more to explore in the psychic pool. Like we've kind of gravitated on like these three attackers are like the big ones. Of course, there's like the spread with like Monkey Dory and Bucephalon. Um, so I wonder if there's like a way for me to play like the Bucephalon, for instance. I wouldn't need to play the monkey, wouldn't need to fit in like a dark or a like a rainbow energy, and I can still get that off. And like that can almost be like a board wipe on its own. So a lot of like really interesting things that happen. And I think like people might want to reevaluate this deck once this is banned, even though I don't think it's like a paradigm shifting ban like some other ones. So, well, that's it. Please sound off in the the comments if I post this, and tell me your thoughts. Um, I guess shout out to my locals and David McDonald for the co host on the Clubhouse podcast.